No, you don't think like that. You don't think 10 or 20 years ahead. You have instincts, though, and I had an instinct when I argued for Nipissing at committee and with the government in Ontario. You know, somebody asked me, well, what do you need a new university for? And I said, because we're going to be a different university. Now, I made that up on the spot. I didn't really know what I meant by that, but instinct told me that what we had at Nipissing was different and unique. And it was the kernel of something that could even be greater. And I knew that instinctively. But now, looking back in hindsight, I can see what it's become. I mean, I can see the institution that it has become. But could I have painted a caricature of this? No. I just knew there was something there.
Tell me about the journey getting from the idea that Nipissing needed to be on its own, stand on its own, to actually seeing it through to fruition.
Well, I think the idea, it goes back a long way. It goes back to '67. Herb Brown and George Ziterak had the idea that it should eventually be on its own at someday. And it just took time. It took 25 years for it to really happen. You know, I have to give a lot of credit to a guy named Tony Blackburn. Tony actually started the formal process in the late 80s. I took it over in 1990, but Tony was the one that started the formal process for independence for Nipissing. And then everybody just took the ball, carried the ball, and away we went. And once we got it between our teeth, as someone said, we were pretty stubborn. We didn't let it go.
And talk to me about the team that you had behind you getting there.
Well, the team was the whole university. That's what was wonderful and unique. I mean, we didn't have a big administration team. I had no vice president academic and a couple of deans, and Roman Wazowski was one. And you know, there wasn't a huge management team. There was a fabulous board behind us. But every employee in the place was pushing hard to make this happen, as well as the community. The support from City Council, from Mike Harris was our MLA at that time. Huge support. And it had to be to get an NDP, Sudbury NDP MLA, to put a private members bill forward to get a university in North Bay under a Conservative MLA. You tell me that wouldn't be interesting today. So it took a big team effort to make it happen.
So when you look at that and you look at the history, you can talk about what it was going to mean to North Bay having the stand on its own. Now when you look back, what has it meant? Are you able to put that in words?
Well, I think it's certainly to the community it's meant, you know, a window of post-secondary opportunities that would not normally exist in a community like this. And so when students, young people, adults for that matter, have a door to which they can go in and get access to the world's post-secondary education, which they can through Canada or Nipissing. It's a wonderful thing that creates hope in young people. You know, it lets them dream and have aspirations, and that's what it does for the community. What it's done nationally, I think, and I said that in my speech today, I think it's told the rest of the country that it's okay to be a university that focuses on students, and you can still be world class. And I think that's what Nipissing showed.
And it does focus on students, but at the same time it is growing. How do you know, if you had a word of advice to the incoming president, what would you tell him?
Well, just remember why Nipissing was established in 1967. It was to provide outstanding undergraduate education to students. It's told the rest of the country that you can actually pay attention to students and be a great university. And that's a lot of things to doing that. There's research, there's facilities, lots of things to go to paying attention to those students, but that's the reason you exist. You exist for those students.
Did you imagine, 20 years ago when you got the nod, okay, you're a standalone university, continue on, that you would be standing in Robert Surtees' gym no. or looking at the Harris Library?
Sure, Bob and I are playing basketball together on the starting lineup for the Nipissing University basketball team in 1990, and imagining that we'd be here in his gym. No, I don't think so. You don't. I never imagine things like that. You imagine what tomorrow will be like, and if you do the right thing for yourself and for your community and your institution, that there'll be a day after that will even be better. So you always believe that, but to try and imagine something like this, no. This is, I think you've been around for a long time, and many of the people here have been around for a long time, and appreciate how special this 20th birthday is, how special it is.
A message to those carrying the torch forward, not just the president, but the students and the faculty and those who come after them. Yeah,
look, if anything you should have learned over the last 20 years at Nipissing is that people that have fun together, do good things together. So my parting comments to the Nipissing University community: have fun, guys. It's a great place, a great city, a great community, and you're great people. So just have fun.
Well, when Nipissing started out in 1967, people really were quite questioning about whether it would ever amount to anything. And you know, 25 years later, in 1992, my son was one of the first graduates of Nipissing University, Stan Jr. And so we spanned 25 years then, and here we are now 20 years later, and it's just so great to see what we have become. The university has grown. It has grown in terms of its service to students, to the local community. It has grown as an institution in the community, a job creator, an economic development initiative. And I think it has grown on a national scale. And of course, the Globe and Mail now rates it #1 in most of the areas based on students' own evaluations. So it's my belief that we have achieved the vision, we have maintained the commitment to excellence, and Nipissing can be very proud of what it has done in a very short 45-year history.
Was it a gamble for you to take the job here at Nipissing versus one of the big universities?
Well, you know, as a 23-year-old, back in those days, I had a lot of adventure. And when George Zidorak said, when the job was advertised at the University of Alberta, and we were both there, I went and saw him, and he said, I'm going to start a new university. You're going to be in on the ground floor. You're going to have a chance to be part of history. I was sold. I never thought there was any gamble. I never thought for once, never once, that we would not be around in 50 years. I didn't know if I would be around in 50 years, but I never thought for once that Nipissing would fail. And we had people such as Herb Brown and Jack Trussler and Father Sobish and all of those board members and community members, John Cullis, and they were just so enthusiastic and involved. I felt Nipissing had a great future, and fortunately, I felt in the end that I had really hitched myself to a good wagon.
Did you ever dream that you would be standing in Nipissing University as a standalone university?
Well, it was George Zidorak's vision from the beginning, and when he slipped that word university in between Nipissing College, it was his way of saying we're different. We're not a college, we're a university. Honestly, I didn't have any idea how long it would take, but George Zidorak set the basis over the first 20 years for what Nipissing eventually became, of course, in 25 years. And he was here today, and it was great to see him have a chance to see this celebration on this occasion. You know, you never know where the future is leading you, but you have to follow where the path may lead, and sometimes you even have to set a trail, and in many cases we were really setting trail.
Now, what's your message to those who carry the torch after?
Well, I think for those who are carrying the torch now, of course, their skill levels and their excellence and so on is just so beyond anything that we had 45 years ago. I spoke with one of my colleagues in sociology about a month ago, and he said, you know, Stan, if any of us were now applying for a job at Nipissing University with our qualifications, we wouldn't get it. You know, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing that we have people of such high caliber. Virtually to get a job at Nipissing University now, you have to already have published a book. And so we have some pretty high caliber people here at Nipissing University. And I would say scholarship and teaching. Teaching has got to remain as a stalwart, important feature of Nipissing University if we're going to continue. And the notion of one student at a time. You know, every student is important, and students have to feel that, you know, they are the most important thing in terms of the vision, but more particularly the delivery of what the university is all about.